Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. I want to talk about our genetic batteries. It's a metaphor that I used. By batteries, I mean like Duracell or Energizer or something. I don't mean the fortifications of our military. There's a quote out of this book which you may be very familiar with, The Ancient Engineers by Sprague L. de Camp, and it's on page 14, early in the book. I had conceived of this problem quite some time before I ever read this book, and when I read across it, and knowing this book was published in the 60s, years before I was born, decades before I was born, good, I'm glad that this is on people's mind. Here's the quote. Many geneticists believe that civilization causes the human stock slowly to degenerate by enabling persons with unfavorable mutations to live and breed, when in a wild state they would quickly perish. End quote. That is exactly what I mean by our human batteries. They're sort of charged up in the sense there's sort of energy, a sort of energy in them, a metaphorical form of energy is charged up into our genome by natural selection, by every single generation having 4 out of 5 children die before they reach the age of breeding. So that 80% of the genetic combinations that are tried don't get passed on. Only 20% of the genetic combinations that are tried get passed on. That's assuming an 80% mortality rate before the age of puberty. Now I want to tie this to the crow epistemology, oddly enough, if I can. A crow, Ayn Rand wrote about the crow epistemology experiment in her Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology. The crow epistemology is where there's crows in a clearing, and they have 3 people walk in and 2 walk out, and the crows won't come back because they think there's someone still there. But if 5 walk in and 4 walk out, all they see is a crowd come in, a crowd came out, so 3 is their maximum number. Humans can hold about 5, and there's a lot of evidence and research that's been done on this. 5 is right crisp number for humans. Most people can hold more than 4. They can usually get to 5 at least sometimes. And there's lots of different research that's been done on it. Here's the thing. If our genetic stock has been sort of reducing, because basically anybody, as long as they can sort of move a hoe or a rake out in the field, as long as they can do enough to contribute something to the production of food, they can survive, provided that some germ or something doesn't kill them. Fine. So isn't it the case that humans might be degenerated somewhat in the sense of their prowess, if you will? So, there's actually a video in my favorites. I think it's on Zook999 or something like that. Zook's channel, Z-U-K-E something. And he has videos about ape to man and the Stone Age and stuff. And maybe it's not on his channel, but it was related to one of the videos on his channel for sure. Anyways, it's about apes, and they're the ape epistemology, if you will. What is the ape epistemology? The ape epistemology does not stop at 5. They can actually keep more things in their short-term memory, more like 9. So the way that they do this, the scientists flash a monitor, and they have, there's 32 squares or whatever on the monitor, and 9 of them will be filled in with numbers, and the ape has to hit them in the order that the squares are, and if so, they get a peanut. If not, then everything blanks off. If they do 1 digit wrong. Now, it just flashes up there for about a second, and I think it's actually, I think they get it down to 6/10 of a second, or something like that. Very short period of time. It just flashes on the screen and off again, and the ape sees all 9 of them, memorizes the constellation just like that, and then hits all 9 of them in order, gets its peanut, and waits for the next go. Humans can't even come close to it. None. So, in a certain sense, we are genetically superior to apes, but in a certain sense, we're genetically inferior. We might do well to remember that when we're boasting about how well designed we are. I'm not an ape. Damn right you're not. You don't have the crow epistemology of an ape. You're a lowly human. Well, on to the next chapter of our discussion. Fine. human stock seems like we're getting along okay a bit. It's degrading, going downhill to some extent. What's the future hold? It's just going to keep going downhill. We've got 6 billion people now. Back in the Stone Age, there were, I quote from the book in front of me, there were, because of the difficulty of getting food in the Pleistocene, only a few 100,000 people on the entire face of the globe. A few 100,000. Now, there's a few 100,000 people in the city an hour from me, and I'm in the middle of a very sparsely populated state in the western United States, which is not very heavily populated except for California. The whole population of the planet in the Pleistocene age is in Provo, Utah, or Orem, or whatever. I mean, it's the amount of genetic variation out there is enormous, and it's gotten to the point. It used to be at the point where every once in a while it would get built up a bit. You get a lot of food or extra food or something. You get a big population, then disease would come through and wipe a bunch out. So every once in a while you cut off all kinds of dead ends and straggles and frays, metaphorical frays in the DNA's quality. But if you keep on adding population and never kill large numbers off with some sort of biological problem, if you never cull the numbers using evolution, if evolution never gets to cut the numbers down with diseases or whatever else, and even starvation and hunger, even that, you know, in periods of starvation and hunger, some people survive better than others. If none of these factors, are like diabetics, are done, if they can't have food for 5 or 6 days, wow, right? So diseases would just disappear rapidly, massive amounts of diseases, just if we had